And
So yeah, so
and
step 3 is subordinate everything else. Align all the processes to support. So that you don't kick the can.
yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is, if you're kicking the can, then that's not a good thing either. Like it's just going to be tomorrow's problem.
No, sometimes I like to describe it as a garden hose with many kinks in it. So if you're trying to fix a garden hose to make the water come out the end, which kink do you unkink first?
I don't know, the one closest to you. I like to start on the edge.
the one closest to the output, and then you work your way back. Because if you unkink the very first one, you're still not going to get water out. You're just putting all the pressure on the next kink.
We're gonna have to go into video mode here because I want to show you something that I've done in the past. But keep talking while I get it ready. Well, because I think this is an important point, right? Like I think a lot of people jump, especially like the newer generation. I mean, I want to tread carefully here.
They jump to the low hanging fruit, and you can't necessarily do that with a system. It feels good to jump in and fix something that's easily fixed and be the hero for the day. But then ultimately it could knock your house of cards down. So you really do need to be careful of what you do with an existing system. And a lot of this is for existing systems. When you're starting up a brand new system, you obviously are trying to build it without constraints.
And I think a good example of this has been data center versus cloud. My wife and I were talking about this the other day. We're like, why did Atlassian do the Great Fork? Like, why did they divert so much when it came to, like, they already had a Jira. Why did they rebuild a brand new Jira? And my theory is that, well, there was just so many, like, it was band-aided and duct taped together.
Yeah. And it didn't take any advantage of cloud native technologies.
And so to do any refactoring there, any improvement would mean you're kicking the feet under the house, and you're dropping the house of cards. So it's easier to just start all over with a fresh new model.
Yeah. No, I think you're not only is your theory spot on. I have heard Atlassians give a presentation that exactly explains that.
Oh, you should have probably watched that one. So I wanted to walk you through here. So maybe do a little bit of a demo or an exercise, because I've done something very similar to what we've been describing with this identifying your theory, identifying your constraints. And this is an exercise that I was taught again when I was as a systems engineer and figuring out, like, why did things not work, right? And so I wanted to maybe start off with something simple, right? Something relevant to us. And that is, we want to get to 1,000 subscribers, right? This is the output of this channel, right? Like monetize the channel. And this is an exercise that I usually like to do because I start at the end, right? I know the output. I know what I want to get out of my system. And so I work backwards from there, right? And so what are the two things that we need to do, right? We need 4,000 subscribers, right? Sorry, we need 1,000 subscribers.
It's actually 500 now.
No, well, it depends on the monetization policy we want, right?
Oh, okay.
But we need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours.
Okay.
Right? That's if you want the full tier, all the monetization.
Okay.
And that's a great example, right? Of like, well, we can unlock channel membership at 500 subs.
Oh yeah, it's the memberships.
Right. And so this is where, again, AdSense is what we want, right? Not necessarily memberships, right? So you can fine tune your output. But then from here, you're like, okay, so how do we get to 1,000 subscribers, right? And so that's where you're like, well, you can, LinkedIn posts,
bribes,
right? Yeah, you can bribe your people. Yeah, so this is where you start working backwards to essentially build out your process, right? And one of the exercises that I always used to do at work would be like, okay, this LinkedIn post, why can't we do this one? And somebody's like, oh, well, only one person can post to the account or something. And so that's where you like start troubleshooting. Okay, so why do we have?
Why is there only one? And
yeah. And so but until you know your process, right? And this was the first exercise that I did when I joined this new team, which was on day one, we're like, okay, today, if you didn't change a single thing, how do we get from A through Z? Just call it all out. Doesn't matter where the efficiencies are. It doesn't matter where the constraints are. We just want to know, because oftentimes, going back to identifying that constraint, which we said is easy, but in technicality, it's not easy if you don't even know what you do.
True. Yeah. Yeah. To refine what we said, it's probably the easier part of the system, but it doesn't, or the process, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Because you need to know how your process works.
Yeah. You need to identify your process, which goes to, what they've defined as value stream mapping. And that's basically just sitting down in a room with all the key people and figuring out what happens in your system. What are all the moving parts?
Yeah.
And often than not, you'll find out that you didn't understand half the system.
It's just people are like, I know that I do this part. And the fun part is connecting them together, right? Like, we know Timmy in accounting does their part, and he's like, I just received this. And the real question is like, well, how does anything get over to Timmy? Should something have to go to Timmy? Why do things go to Timmy?
Yeah.
And
I had a customer who I won't name years ago that had a major constraint in their system and their software development that nobody knew except for that one guy. And until we sat down and did what eventually became value stream mapping, nobody knew that this one guy was holding up the whole process. And it turned out that he would spend more time explaining why he can't do something versus actually doing it. And once we identified that and retrained him a little bit, the process started flowing much
better.